Look at an older fantasy game today, and look at old fantasy games has to include Dungeons and Dragons. This is looking at the basic set from 1980. After the basic set, people often progress to the AD&D, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. We'll check this out. Played this one when it came out and went on to AD&D after that, but the module in this is a great module in my opinion. So let's see what we got here. Cover art is awesome, of course. Back shows you the components. It's got dice. 6-sided, 4-sided, 8-sided, 10-sided, 12-sided. Of course, need the 20-sided. And this isn't the original crayon, but they come with a crayon and shows the age that actually you would like crayon in the numbers to get them to show. It's a fairly light material too, a little bit lighter than what's common for dice today. The basic rules. Some pages, and of course I'm not going to go through step by step all the rules, so since I'm going to cover this in about an hour-ish, I'm going to kind of give you the highlights of what's in the rule in the module, in the rule book in the module, and then kind of show a couple scenarios playing through the mission in there. I'll kind of hit some highlights and show how to develop a character sheet, I guess. The Keep on the Borderlands by Gary Gygax. Character levels 1 to 3. And I very much enjoyed this. Is a great module. It's got about 30 pages and we'll go through the highlights of that. Then you got some advertising material in here. Well, these are all lucky they got a pretty good copy. TSR advertisement showing the other games. Advertising Dragon magazine, which is an awesome magazine. Well, it's the Role-Playing Game Association membership. Lifetime membership, $200. It's interesting. Going through the rules at a high level here. Index. It's by Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson, edited by Tom Moldvay. Illustrations: Jeff D., David S. LaForce, Errol Otis, James Rosloff, Bill Willingham. Covered by Errol Otis. Most people know what D&D is, but it's a role-playing adventure game for a person 10 years and older. Individuals play the role of characters in a fantasy world where magic is real and heroes venture out on dangerous quests in search of fame and fortune. Definition and terms. Player character information. We'll go through the process of creating one, but here's the steps. So you have ability scores, hit points, armor class, and alignments, and levels. And then some, you acquire different equipment, you might have magic. And the abilities are strength, intelligence, wisdom, dexterity, constitution, charisma. Strength is muscle power, ability to use that power. Intelligence. Any character with a strength of 13 or above should consider fighter, dwarf, elf, or halfling. Intelligence Character's intelligence score of 13 above, consider magic user elf. Wisdom, score of 13 or greater, consider cleric. Dexterity, if you have 13 or greater, consider thief or halfling. Constitution, it influences your health and endurance, so it affects your hit points. Charisma, it's a combination of appearance, personal charm, and leadership ability. Hit points and hit dice. Bonus and penalties due to abilities. Bonuses and penalties due to abilities. Character class tables. Character classes are clerics, dwarves, elves, fighters, halflings, magic users, and thieves. It's interesting here that dwarves and elves are classes rather than races. And levels of the different classes. Beginner modules for levels 1 to 3, so it's what's shown here. Some tables for thieves. Clerics are humans dedicated to the service of a god or goddess. They can do spells, but they can fight too. Dwarves are short, stocky demi-humans, about 4 feet tall. Very hardy creatures. Elves are slender and graceful. Fighters are humans who train for battle. Halflings, like hobbits. Small, good-natured demi-humans. Magic users, use magic of course. Thieves, train the arts of stealing and sneaking. And then alignments. In advanced D&D you have lawful good, lawful neutral, etc. But here it's lawful, chaotic, or neutral. So when you choose an alignment, when you play your character, the DM makes sure you're following with what your alignment is. Lawful is the belief that everything should follow order. Chaotic is the opposite of law. Neutrality is the belief that the world is a balance between law and chaos. Each alignment has a secret language. Some weapons and costing gold pieces. And armor gives you different armor classes. Equipment can be used for different things in your missions, of course. Different languages. Sometimes you can roll a d20 to figure out which language. Example of creating a character. Example, character record sheet. Name, player's name, character's name, alignment, class level, armor class, hit points, abilities, and then these are adjustment to your various scores. Saving throws are what you roll to avoid various bad things happening. And the 2-hit roll is based on what weapons you have, what you need to hit other different armor classes. Show you magic items, normal items, money, experience. Spells. Clerics and magic users use spells. Cleric, for instance, cure light wounds, detect evil, detect magic light, protection from evil, purify food and water, remove fear, resist cold. That's what they do. They have ranges and durations associated with them. Magic user and elf spells. There's first and second level spells. For magic user and elf. First level, charm person, detect magic, floating disc, cold portal, light, magic missile, protection from evil, read languages, read magic, shield, sleep, ventriloquism. Second level, continue light, detect evil, detect invisible, ESP, invisibility knock, levitate, locate object, mirror image, phantasmal force, web, wizard lock. Some higher level cleric and magic user spells. And then the adventure, kind of know what the DM's supposed to do, what the players do, party size and composition, how do you organize the party, how do you keep track of weights of items you're carrying, which can affect character movement. And also during the play, there's resting and how time passes, movement, mapping, using figures. How do you consider light, doors, retainers, reactions of them, traps, wandering monsters, and you go up to different levels by gaining experience points. You get experience points for monsters to kill. Encounters, order events in a game turn. Roll for wandering monsters. The Dungeon Master or DM rolls for wandering monsters. Party moves. Listen searches. Give monsters an icon. Turn ends. DM rolls 2d6 to check the distance between the monsters and party. DM rolls 1d6 for both the monsters and party to check for surprise. DM and party roll 1d6 for initiative, see who moves first. DM rolls 2d6 for monster reaction. Parties and monster react. Could be combat, could be talking, could be other actions. End of turn. How many monsters appear, distance, surprise, initiative, party actions of fight, talk, or run away, evasion, wait. You can roll for monster reaction. Combat sequence. Set rolls for initiative. Wins the initiative, acts first. Morale checks, movement per round, misfire combat, magic spells, melee or hand-to-hand combat. Set an excess initiative, acts second, etc. Defensive movement, fighting, retreat, fighting withdrawal. How you do attacking rolls, adjustments to attack rolls. Damage is tracked by knocking down hit points. So you can heal wounds. How you do missile fire. Saving throws for different items here, like poison for instance. Melee combat, how that's performed. Checking morale. And these are monsters, so monster list. In Advanced D&D, there's a whole monster manual book. So in Advanced D&D, generally there's a Dungeon Master's Guide, Player's Handbook, and a monster manual. But in this basic set, all that's included in this one basic set of rules, with a limited number of monsters, of course. Acolytes, apes, bats, etc. And shows the armor class, hit dice, how it moves, attacks, and damage. Saving throws, morale. There's treasure and the alignment. Dragons. How dragons' fire breath grows. Gargoyles, ghouls, etc. Goblins. These are all different monsters. For a number of monsters. And then treasure. Random treasures, you can roll to figure out what the random treasures are in different modules or adventures. They specify treasures, but you can either randomly create treasures as you go on the mission, or when you can use this to set up your own dungeon and missions by populating with this. Coins, gems, jewelry, how magic items are dispersed in treasure, explanation of magic items, if can you have magic weapons or armor, potions, often healing potions, very useful of course, scrolls, wands, staves and rods, other magic items, and then Dungeon Master information. So this is for creating your own mission, which is fun for the Dungeon Master to do. Choose scenario, decide the monsters, decide what you're doing as far as the mission, and populating your mission, doing maps, stocking dungeons, treasures, handling wandering monsters, again shadowing those and what their abilities are. Here's an example of a dungeon design that the DM would develop. Populating the rooms, it's kind of sketching out what you want as far as buildings or the wilderness, or maybe it's subterranean, and different. You can use these different codes for different items to put in the map, and this is for creating your own maps. But there's several, like we're going to be doing Keep on the Borderlands module. It's a module that's been already developed, but you can develop your own too. It's a sample expedition. Credits, editor Tom Moldvay, production layout, getting continuity, illustrations, cover, previous edition credits, special thanks, and inspirational source material, glossary, index. This is the adventure model that comes with the set. Dungeon module B2, the Keep on the Borderlands by Gary Gygax. Kind of simple cover art, but works. Kind of gives you a sense of the fantasy. The maps. This is the bigger map showing the wilderness surrounding the keep and the Caves of the Unknown and the Caves of Chaos. You can see the forest, river, country lines, fens, road, tamarack stand, and water. And this is the map of the keep, and the numbered rooms are described in this book. See the battlements, door, double door, catapult, ballista. And this is the map for the Caves of Chaos, which is along with the keep are shown on the wilderness map, but here's the detail of it. Trees, country line, cave mouth, pit, door, secret door, stairs up, stairs down, curtains, pillar, dais, altar, pool of water. And then the different rooms are described in the module book. Each square equals 10 feet. And I'll be using this often at many hobby shops. You can get these kind of 1 inch square mats you can put down. Obviously this doesn't come with the game, but you can get these any place, and it's good for setting up your characters. Various notes for the Dungeon Master. So the Dungeon Master or DM is the one who references this book, and he tells the players items out of this book as the mission progresses, of course. It's been designed to allow 6 to 9 players. Again, levels 1 to 3. Various monsters and NPCs are mentioned in the text. Using the keep as a home base, your players should be able to have quite a number of adventures before they have exhausted all possibilities of the Caves of Chaos map. Keep is a microcosm. Within its walls, your players will find that it's basically a small village with a social order, and one will meet antagonists of a sort. Outside lies the way to the Caves of Chaos, where monsters abound. This is developing of non-player characters. How to use combat tables. And I'll show this in play. Movement in combat, whether it's unarmored or armored. You read the background sections. Within the first session of Play the Next, the participants will set forth to find and explore the many caves of chaos, must describe the journey to the place and what the characters see, and allow them to choose how they will go about adventuring. Dungeon Master keeps track of time. Set dungeon, a normal turn is 10 minutes. General party should rest and sleep 8 hours in every 24. Remember that a player characters heal 1 to 3 points naturally every 24 hours of rest. Dividing treasure and computing experience. And you read the background section to the players. For instance here, the realm of mankind is narrow and constricted. Always the forces of chaos press upon its borders, seeking to enslave its populace. Few who do survive the process will turn from law and good to the masters of chaos, but most will remain faithful and ready to fight evil wherever it threatens to affect the realm. Start talks about them traveling many days. Notes about the keep. Here's the keep. It's the guild house. Floor plan, first floor, second floor. Then a grid where you can draw your own floor plan and to support your own adventures. Different areas of the keep. Gate, towers, entry yard. Our tower apartments. For instance, private apartments. Special quarters are available for well-to-do families, rich merchants, guild masters, and like. The 5 small apartments along the south wall are occupied by families of persons dwelling within the outer belly of the keep. The 2 large ones currently house a jeweler and merchant. Talks about the jeweler. It's got some fighters with them. Talks about their hit points, armor class. Priest. Got a couple acolytes with him. It's got some spells. Talks about Smith Armory. Trader, loan bank. Talks about what treasures and what people they see in there. Watchtower, Guildhouse, Chapel, Keep Fortress. Adventures outside the keep. Normal movement rate is 1 square per hour. Searching, 3 walking, 6 riding. Camping outdoors. Chance of encountering random monsters. Description varies on the outdoor map. Spider's Lair, Mad Hermit, Lizardmen, Caves of Chaos, Woods Underground Interiors, different tribes, monsters, different encounter areas, some reference tables, class equipment, and weapons, spells for magic user, cleric, saving throw tables, wandering monster table, clerics versus undead, die roll for characters get a hit, die roll for monsters to score a hit, more cave information, different rooms. The DM explains the different areas as they go in. For instance, they go in the guard chamber, they say 6 goblin guards. with javelins and clubs. Ogre cave, hobgoblin lair. Different descriptions of the rooms. Guard room, chieftain's room, slave pen. Caves of the Minotaur. Surge, fire beetles, Minotaur, Knoll. Guard rooms, locked room, common room, old chieftain. Shrine of Evil Chaos, Boulderfield Passage, Hall of Skeletons, guard room, acolytes. Evil Chapel, Adept's Chamber, Hall of Undead Warriors, Temple of Evil Chaos, Chambers of the Evil Priest, Quest Chamber, Torture Chamber, Crypt, Swords Chamber, Cell. Credits, design written by Gary Gygax, layout, Harold Johnson, editing, shown there, art, David S. LaForce, Harold Otis, Jim Rossoff. And then non-player character, randomly generating them, personalities, here, roll on a 1d10, 1d20, roll on a d20, race class, again you roll on a d20. This is how you can design your own floor plans, tips to some players, glossary, and then additional non-player characters. Use a sheet to keep track of them. Name, class, profession, level, armor class, hit point, strength, intelligence, wisdom, dexterity, constitution, charisma, personality, special items, and place. And we'll do some examples of play. And of course, to give a legit late 70s, early 80s D&D feel, I'm going to use some miniatures, some Grenadier miniatures. They come in these boxes, and I'll draw from a couple boxes there. One I'll be using is the adventuring party because it's got quite a selection of characters, and I'll take some from that when I do it. As far as the monsters, it involves some kobolds, and these guys are gnolls, but they kind of look like kobolds. I'll use these guys and draw some from some of the other parts here. And all these boxes come with a nice art in the cover. They have a insert that tells you what the characters are, and so I'm looking forward to using those. Just creating the characters. I'm going to do 4 characters level 1. It might be a challenge for those to succeed at this module, but we'll check it out. So it describes how to do this in the rulebook. And first of all, you roll for your ability scores. You roll a 6-sided dice 3 times for each of the 6 categories on each of the characters. First one is 6, 9, 14. Then I'll roll for the rest on this character. 6, 9, 11. For intelligence, 6, 10, 12. Wisdom, dexterity, 4, 5, 10. So kind of middle of the road scores so far. Constitution, 4, 5, 8. Charisma, 6, 10, 15. A lot of charisma. Then we'll roll for the other 3 characters as well. And the book shows an example of creating a character there. But I've rolled for the abilities of all the characters and got a variety as you'd expect. This one's got kind of average scores. Has fairly high wisdom, so he's going to be a cleric. It's got charisma. This one has high strength, constitution, and charisma, and wisdom. He's a pretty good character here. But since he has high strength, go with fighter. High strength. and we'll make him a dwarf, but unfortunately he's got low constitution. High intelligence, high wisdom, high dexterity. Because of high intelligence, we'll make him a wizard. And you look at the various scores to see what bonuses you get. So once you have these rolls, you look at the corresponding table here, which for each ability, it tells you the range of values and then adjustments. So for instance, for the fighter, he had a 16 strength, which would give him a +2 to hit damage and opening doors. But for instance, on this character, strength, he doesn't get an adjustment, but intelligence, he's got a 15, so he can get 1 added language to what he'd normally have. Wisdom, he's got a 14, so he gets +1 on magic-based saving throws. Dexterity, he's got a 14, so he gets a +1 to hit rolls. -1 bonus on his armor class. Initiative adjustment. Constitution, he's in the range of normal, so he doesn't get an adjustment there. Charisma, he's within the range of normal there, so he doesn't get an adjustment. And then for each of them, I'll just show this as an example, but well, then we would roll for the hit points, and for the different character classes, they have different hit points. So magic users roll in a D4, dwarves roll in a D8, fighters roll in a D8, and clerics roll in a D6. Rolled that and got a 3. And he didn't have any adjustment to that based on his constitution. That's where his hit points are. Then you look at saving throws. This is a table of saving throws. So if the result, when you do saving throw, the result is equal or greater, you make the save. So for instance, magic users would normally have a 13 for death, ray, or poison, 14 magic wands, 13 paralysis, turn of stone, 16 dragon breath, 15 rod, staves, or spells. But he has got a wisdom, which gives him a +1 for magic saving throws. So my interpretation is then for death ray, which I assume is magical. If it's a magical death ray, he'd get a bonus on that. So instead of a 13 or less, a 13 or more, he would just need a 12 or more. Magic wand is magical, of course, so instead of a 14, he's a 13. Turn to stone or paralysis, if they're magic induced, then it would be a 12 instead of a 13. Dragon breath, 16. And then spells or magic staff is magical, so instead of a 15, you need a 14. And then for languages, most characters get, unless they get a bonus, they get common and then language and then their alignment language, and he's going to be chaotic, so he'll have the chaotic language. And then he also, because of his intelligence, he gets a +1 language, and then you roll in the table for that, which is here. And he rolled and he got orc on a D20 he rolled. Include that. And then first level magic users get 1 spell, so he chose magic missile of the choices. Then the others, the dwarf, he could roll D8 for hit points, but he's got -1 hit points because he's got a low constitution. He rolled a 7, so he gets a 6. His wisdom doesn't give any changes to his saving throws. The magic user's special ability is spells, of course, but for dwarves, the special ability is they can have a better chance of finding traps or passages, and they have infravision, so they can see in dark for 60 feet. And dwarves also for language. He didn't get an intelligence bonus, but dwarves, he's got common and his alignment is neutral, so he gets that. But then dwarves also know dwarvish, gnome, kobold, and goblin. So he gets those. And then the fighter, he gets a +2 on hit damage. Intelligence gets a +1 language, so his languages are common, he's lawful, and then he also rolled and he got a gargoyle language. Wisdom, he gets +1 magic saving throws, so these are modified for the +1 adjustment. When it's plus magic throws, it means that you can either add 1 to your roll or decrease what this value is, either way, but you have a greater chance of doing well. Get +1 constitution, so he gets +1 hit points. Charisma, he gets +1 reactions. He rolled a 6, he gets to roll a d8, then he add a 1 to that to get a 7. Doesn't have any special abilities. And the cleric, +1 magic saving throws, and +1 reaction. And first level clerics don't get any spells, but he has a special ability of he has a chance of being able to turn undead. And then his languages are common and lawful. And also when you choose a character, the primary abilities, you get a bonus if you have a high score on those. On the prime requisite, so for instance, dwarves and fighters, their prime requisite is strength. So the fighter, since he has a 16 on strength, that's his prime requisite, he gets a +10% earn experience points. And similar for the others, for their prime requisite. For dwarves and fighters, it's strength. For magic users, it's intelligence, and for clerics, it's wisdom. So you get the corresponding. So, for instance, the cleric has a wisdom of 13, which would give him a +5% earned experience points. So that's the characters, and then we'll figure out how much money they have, and you roll a 3d6 and then multiply that by 10. Eight, 12, so 120 gold pieces. Then we'll do that for each of the others. And these are the miniatures I'll be using for the characters. This is the dwarf, the fighter, the magic user, the cleric. Give them names, you can draw a picture of them if you want. I'll go alphabetically to keep track of them, but the fighter is Alpha, the cleric I'll call Belter, the magic user is Darius, and the dwarf is Kai. Then I'll show one of the characters examples of getting equipment. So the fighter Alpha has 110 gold pieces. And then this page it shows you the weapons, armor, and different equipment you can get for a cost. He's going to get a sword for 10 gold pieces, a dagger for 3, hand axe for 4, get plate mail armor for 60 gold pieces, get a shield for 10, get some rope for a gold piece, get torches, get 5 groups of torches that have 6 each. It'll cost him a total of 5 gold pieces. Rations, he'll get 3 weeks of rations, which is 5 for each week. And that gets him up to 108 gold pieces. And then now that he knows his armor, he can figure out his armor class. Plate mail gives you an armor class of 3, and then if he has a shield, if he's using a shield, it gets him down to 2, so I've noted that here. It's either 3 or 2, depending if he has a shield or not. Then to figure out the 2 hit rolls needed, The 2-hit roll, if you roll that number or higher, you score a hit on a monster that you're fighting. Start up here, this is the attacker's level, defender's armor class. For a normal person, you get that for first to third level, and he's a first level. You get here, it goes from 10 up to 1019 for 0. Filled in down here, but he's the modification. He doesn't get any, he does plus 2 hit damage, but dexterity would give him a bonus on hitting. So for instance, if he had a high dexterity, he would need a less number to hit. But he doesn't get any modifications there, so we just filled in, goes from 10. So that it's been filled out there. Start out with 0 experience. Then I'll fill out the TID rolls similarly for the other characters and get them equipment. Then we'll get into play. And a couple other items about play. I'm going to use 1 inch by 1 inch kind of grid sheet here, and then I have it under glass. And the reason I do that is then when you go along, you can use a dry erase and kind of mark off areas for the map, and that's a handy thing. And then also in play, the characters can have grid paper and mark off the map themselves as well too, so you can keep track of where they're at. And also, and obviously this grid isn't included in the base game. And also, turns out Hero Quest items work out pretty well with this too. And again, this isn't included in the base game. And there's other accessories for D&D you can use, but these doors and chair and treasure chests that I had from Hero Quest will work well too. So the DM reads the background then. The realm of mankind is narrow and constricted. Always the forces of chaos press upon its borders, seeking to enslave its populace, rip its riches, and steal its treasures. If it were not for a stout few, many in the realm would fall prey to the evil which surrounds them, yet there are always certain exceptional and brave members of humanity, as well as similar individuals among its allies, dwarves, elves, and halflings, who rise above the common level and join battle to slave off the darkness which would otherwise overwhelm the land. Here these exceptional individuals will become skilled in their calling, be it fire, magic user, cleric, or thief. They will be tried in the fire of combat, those who return hardened and more fit. Ahead, up the winding road, atop a sheer-walled mount of stone, looms the Great Keep. Here, at one of civilization's bulwarks, between good lands and bad, you will base yourselves and equip for forays against the wicked monsters who lurk beyond. Somewhere nearby, amidst a dark forest and tangled fens, are the caves of chaos, where fell creatures lie in wait. All this you know, but before you dare adventure into such regions, you must become acquainted with other members of the group. Again, the DM reads this. You have traveled many days, leaving the realm and entering the wilder area of the Borderlands. Farms and towns have become less frequent, travelers few. The road has climbed higher as you enter the forested mountainous country. You now move up a narrow, rocky track. A buttress-like wall of natural stone is on your left, the land falling away to a sheer cliff on the right. There's a small widening ahead where the main gate to the keep is. The boot-clad men-at-arms who guard the entrance shout to you to give your names and state your business. All along the wall you see curious faces peering down at you, eager to welcome new champions of law, paraded with crossbow and pole arm to give another sort of welcome to enemies. And here's where the characters should introduce themselves. And they do. This is what the adventurers see. There's a couple guards are up in towers. The drawbridge is pulled up. And the guards ask them state their name and their business. And they all state their names. And the fighter and the dwarf are lawful, and the cleric is neutral, and the magic user is chaotic. And all the three ones that aren't chaotic are all going to agree that they'll let the fighter alpha do the talking, but the magic user is just going to kind of do his own thing because he's chaotic. Alpha states the name of everybody in the group, and he says their business is to just get some rest because they've been out protecting citizens, and they're okay with that. They decide to lower the bridge. Two guards come down and they tell them they need to sheathe their weapons if they're going to come in. And Alpha speaks for the group saying yes they will, but the magic user, he wants to have his dagger ready if he needs it, so he's going to try to talk his way out of that. And his charisma isn't great. It's only 9, so he doesn't get any bonuses. And here's where you get DM discretion about, kind of what are reasonable roles for talking actions like this. And I think if he gets an 18 or better, they might let him keep his dagger out, so he'll roll. Nope, doesn't make it. If he would have rolled a 1, then I think they would have apprehended him, because that would be a critical mistake. But so he sheathes it, and they decide to come in. They come into the entryway here. They're met by a corporal and his assistant. If they had horses, they would take them. His assistant scribes their names, and each give their name except Darius makes sure he misspells his name for the records, so he doesn't have a track of them. And then they let them know where the Traveler's Inn, which is up this way. A lot of the characters have good charisma, so they're going to try to get more information. Alpha asked the corporal if there's any rumblings of trouble in the town that they can help with. And I'll say if they get 15 or better, he'll get information. Nope. Belters gets +1 to ask. Same thing. Nope. Kai? 20. So he gets a lot of good information. It's just making sure that they don't appreciate chaos in this neck of the woods, because there's plenty of trouble out there in the caves, and they don't want to let any into their town. He gives them a general idea where the caves are, and then he bids them on their way. Then they all go up to the provision store. The door's not locked, so they'll go on in. And they'll spend their gold pieces to get their provisions. And then I bought equipment for the other characters based on how much they had. And one thing they didn't have in the equipment list was healing potion, but I think, and part of being a DM is you can have some discretion about how you do the game. And I think since they're lower level and there's not that many of them, I'm going to give them the option of buying healing potion that I'm going to say does 1d6 of healing for 20 gold pieces each. So each of them has a healing potion, and then the dwarf, plate mail, two-handed battle axe, rations, water, torches, and wine. And the cleric, in the basic edition, they can have whatever armor they want, but they can only have weapons that aren't edged weapons. So he'll get a healing potion as well. He'll have plate armor, mace, sling and stones, rations, a sack and torches. And the magic users in basic can't have any armor. So normally his armor class would be 9, but since he's got good dexterity, he can get that down to 8. Got a healing potion. He can only have a dagger for weapons, so he's got a silver dagger, then holy water, backpack, rations, hammer, spikes, and a lantern. By the time they leave town, they have a general idea where the Caves of Chaos are, which is over here. They decided to go up through the woods here. And each of these squares is 100 yards. When they get to this location, though, everybody's got to roll for detection. Nope. 18, yes. Belter sees something. There's a, you notice something hiding behind a bush here. It looks like a large oak tree with like a opening in it. It looks like someone may be living in there. The dwarf will check for traps. He would have found them, but there are no traps, so they're going to enter. We'll roll for initiative, everybody. So you see a hermit and a puma here. We'll roll for the hermit. 2. Players don't know that, but he gets a modifier on that. The puma will just do what the hermit tells him to. So the others roll. 5. 4. 5. 5. Alpha will go first. He'll be at the door. And he'll just talk to him. Greetings. We're just a bunch of lawful adventurers. Just visiting. How are you doing? And the other 5s will go. Door is blocked, so they can't go through there. They won't say anything. And he'll go. He'll say, welcome. Would you like to come in and have some tea? I'd like to learn about your travels. The dwarf enters. Stand close to the door, though. No fighting's happening. They'll decide to come in. Fighters will kind of stay at the front here. He offers them tea. And he hands it to each. And everybody's going to do a perception check on the tea. See if there's poison. Nope. None of them see poison. And actually, Chi would have found it because that was his... He used his saving throw for checking for it. So nobody drinks theirs, but Chi does. And he rambles on about his part of the woods. And he looks kind of disheveled. He invites them to stay the night and just sleep there so they don't have to travel in the woods. But he doesn't have any other information to offer. And they're not comfortable staying there, so they'll head out. Roll for initiative again. He leaves. As he's about to leave though, he sneaks up behind him and attacks him. And the puma does as well. See if he hits. He's actually a thief. And he's attacking from behind, so he gets a +6 on that. Then this table, he's at 3rd level. Dwarf has armor class of 3, so he'd normally need 16. But he also has +2. He has high dexterity, so he gets +2 in that, so it'd be 14. And then taking out a 6, so 8 or better. 10, he scores a hit. And it does double damage. He has a dagger. So he has 2 points damage. So Chi's down to 4. Then the puma attacks. He's got 3 hit dice +3. So he goes to this row. And he's going against armor class of 3. So he needs a 13 or better. He gets 3 attacks. Miss. Miss. 16 hit. Does 1 to 6 damage. Dwarf only has 4 hit points left. So does 3 points damage. So the dwarf is down to 1. And he'll go. So the dwarf would like to retreat. But if he does, the other guy will get an attack in. He's going to take a healing potion. Get 6 points, so he's back to full. But now he doesn't have healing potion anymore. The next turn, the puma always goes first, but we'll roll for the others. Gets a bonus, so he's up to 3. Puma goes. He's at 13 or better. Miss. 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 So the dwarf was lucky. He'll go, he'll attack. He'll attack the hermit. He has armor class of 6, so he needs a 13 or better. Hit. He's got a battle axe that does 1 to 8 damage. And he gets a +1 for his strength. Does 7 points on him. So the players don't know this, but he's down to 8 points now. Alpha will come in. Attack with his longsword. Against an armor class of 6. He needs a 13 or better. 15 hit. Does 1 to 8. +2 for his hit damage. 8 +2. He goes down. They're assuming the puma's going to keep attacking. So they'll come in. He goes next. Attack with a mace. For a 6 he needs a 13 or better. 16 hit. The mace does 1 to 6. 3. So the puma has 12 points left. He'll come in. He'll kind of stay towards the back of the crowd. Terrace will do a magic missile. It automatically hits, and he's a level 1, so he can only do 1 of them. It does a d6 +1, 7 points damage. Puma's still up. Next round, Puma goes first. He would want to get out of there, but there's no way to go, so he's just going to keep fighting. He'll go after the dwarf again. And he automatically goes first. He needs 13 or better, he gets 3 strikes. Miss. Miss. 18 hit. Four points damage. So the dwarf is getting kind of banged up. He's down to 3 hit points. And I'll do initiative for the others. 6, 3, 4, 4. Cleric will go first. Miss. Dwarf. Needed 13, so he missed. Magic user will just back up a little bit. He doesn't want to expose himself. Alpha. Hit. Four plus 2. He goes down. So that's the end of that battle, and the DM will keep track of the experience points. This table talks about the experience points you get for monsters, and they both had 3 or 3 plus hit dice. So the base value would be 35 experience points, but also they would be 35 for the hermit, but he also had special abilities, so you get another 15 for that. And then the Puma was 3 plus, you'd get 50 for that. So you award those. Just keep track of those and give them at the end of the mission. And they've finished there, and they'll look around and see if they find any treasures. So they all search for secret openings or hidden objects. And the dwarf gets an advantage for looking, and he does find a treasure box. Decides to open up and finds it under the hermit's bed, and he finds 31 gold pieces, 164 silver pieces, a potion of invisibility, which is nice, and a +1 dagger. And they divide that up. The magic user uses a dagger, so he'll take the +1 dagger. And they're not sure who's. They'll have. The clerk has a sack, so he'll carry the other items with him. And they'll use them as they need them. Then they'll proceed on to get to the chaos cave. And they rest with somebody watching along the way, so if they regain all their hit points. Because it took them enough days to get there. The forest you have been passing through has been getting more dense, tangled, and gloomier than before. Amongst a litter of rubble, boulders, and deadwood scattered about on the ravine floor, you see bits of gleaming ivory and white. Closer inspection reveals that these are bones and skulls of men, animals, and other things. You know that you have certainly discovered the caves of chaos. And you see some entrances to the cave, and you're at this one. And the group decides if they want to enter, and the vote is they will. The fighters will go first, and then the magic user and clerk will go behind. And the DM makes a roll. See what's going to happen here. On a 1 to 2, some kobolds are going to be coming down to attack them, and that's what's going to happen. 6 kobolds enter. 8 In the rules they say 8, but I think that's a little bit too much for party 4, so I'll change that to 6. They have dexterity 13. Armor class is 7 and 3 hit points each. The initiative. So our hero scored pretty high, 5s and 4s. Then I'll do the kobolds. One of the kobolds goes first. Got half a hit die. It's going against Alpha, who has a armor class of 2. He'll need a 17 or better. Miss. Alpha goes. Hits. Does 6 points damage. He goes down. Dwarf goes. Misses. Cleric goes. 16 hits. Goes down. Magic user goes. He's pretty vulnerable and none around him right now, so he's gonna back out of there. Essentially, he'll back up and shoot a magic missile. It'll automatically hit. It's 5 plus 1. It goes down. It's pretty successful. Now the remaining kobolds go. Miss. Miss. Hit. On Alpha. Does 1 to 4. Two points on Alpha. Then initiative again. That's the heroes. Heroes go first. Alpha. Miss. Dwarf. Hit. Goes down. Cleric. Miss. 2 kobolds. Hit. On Alpha again. Four more, so Alpha's only got 1 point left. The other one misses on Alpha. Let's see who goes next. That's the kobolds. Alpha goes first. 19. Goes down. Dwarf. 19. Goes down. So hopefully that gives you a little sense of how the play goes. So that's the Dungeons and Dragons basic set from TSR in 1980. Obviously it's a great game. That early D&D basic sets kind of set the stage for role-playing games to kind of spread out. It's very inventive and started a whole genre. For the first set, I mean, it holds up really well. The module is, I think, an excellent module in it. And the basic doesn't have all the bells and whistles of Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. Gets more complicated from there, but even with the basic set, definitely get a sense of it, of the character development and making choices, and whether you negotiate or combat or kind of figure out the situation. And the DM's role is facilitating everything, and hopefully they gave you a sense of how it plays out. Obviously it deserves a high score since it started everything. I'll give it a 9, just because holding back a 10, because even gets better when you get to Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, but it's excellent. Thanks a lot.